Alrighty, welcome to our first ever episode of Mindfulness with Christ. I'm pretty excited for this one too. We have on Miss Frances Piekarski, and she is located in St. Charles, Illinois. She is, of course, a certified aromatherapist, but not only that, she's also a speaker, author, and founder and president of Living Life with Dignity, which is a much needed organization that helps people advocate, care for, and support family members that have severe mental illness or are transitioning from this life. In this episode, me and Miss Frances are going to get into the nitty gritty of essential oils and aromatherapy. This is something I've been super excited to discuss with someone because I know there are a lot of misconceptions about essential oils and a lot of ways I was misusing them. I love how Miss Frances has a very objective view of essential oils and aromatherapy, and she doesn't just talk about the good, but she also gets into the bad and the ugly. So without further ado, this is our episode.
You just direct me and I'm cool.
You are literally so kind. I appreciate that. I
No.
hit just for a heads up, I hit the record button, but yeah, I feel like you're one of the perfect people to have as one of my first guests because you just seem so kind and understanding, and I'm like, oh, this is such a good person to interview.
Well, you know that you say that, but not everybody feels that way about me. So that's really
What?
cool.
What?
Well, I'm supposed to be an 8 on the Enneagram, I hear. So eights can
Hmm.
be kind of intimidating to other people.
Really? What about an eight makes them intimidating, or what are the characteristics of an eight?
We're just results oriented people, so we kind of step over emotions sometimes. We're just okay, let's get this done. Let's figure, we've got the solution to all the problems, and that's why we make good leaders. There aren't too many eights out there. So I'm not sure. I'm just beginning to learn about the Enneagram. I'm not sure. I've been told by several people I'm an eight, um, and I can see where I'm an eight. But when I take the test, um, I'm 75% an eight and 74% a seven. Um,
Hmm. What's a seven?
a seven is more people that everything they're attracted to. They have, all these ideas of things they want to do, get bored easily, move on,
Mm,
and they can be overwhelmed a lot. Um, that's the parts of it that I relate to. Um, yeah, so I toggle back and forth from those two. I'm not sure which one I am, which one is my core one. There's always a core and then a wing, you know.
right.
And it's a self-evaluation. So I'm listening to these podcasts by a friend of mine, who's an Enneagram specialist, and they interview people that are, the different numbers, right? And so I can resonate with people that are eights, and I can resonate with sevens. I also resonate with twos to a certain degree.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes with the Enneagram type stuff, there's a bit of each number in all of us, kind of, to an extent as well.
They
Yeah.
do say that, but it's like, what resonates with you?
Right.
Like, where do you feel like you most fall?
Yeah.
And when you're listening to these people, are you relating to that? Are you saying those are my people? You know? Like, when you're in a group and you're like with like-minded people, those are my peeps. I want to hang out with those peeps?
Yeah. You just vibe pretty well. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what you do because it is a self determined result. And
You gotta
so,
be honest with yourself.
well, yeah, you have to be honest with yourself. But I'm kind of used to that. Um,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I've been told by many a people when I'm in my eight mode and I'm not, in touch with my heart space or the nurturing side of myself. I've been told by people I can be pretty intimidating. Just ask my staff.
Hmm.
Just ask some of the people that, I've
Yeah.
worked with. It just depends on the atmosphere you're in, what needs to be done. I'm definitely a leader.
Hmm.
Definitely a leader.
That's good that you feel comfortable, like, being so open about that and honest with yourself too. I think also with intimidation, sometimes they can have the association of, like, someone who's mean or a bully, but, I mean, people who are super confident in themselves is intimidating. People who know what they want can be intimidating. People who, like you said, aren't afraid to speak their mind, and be blunt about things can be intimidating. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I don't see it as it's my problem. I see it as their problem. If I intimidate them, that's the way they're perceiving me, not necessarily what my intentions are. So if they were to come to me and look for clarity, I would be like, yeah, that's cool. You know, I'm more than happy to talk about that. And I'm more than happy to own any part of whatever happened on my side, you know. Equally, you have to own whatever part was on your side. You know, that's just personal responsibility. And I have no problem with that. The tricky part of it comes in where um, the the demographic of people that I work with on a daily basis are people that have mental health issues. So, like, I just went to go see my brother, and he's definitely having delusions again. So I have to be very, very careful how I say things, and I have to really listen a lot to what he's saying to read the nuances of what he's saying, so that I don't I don't make him feel unsafe.
Right. So he can feel like he can trust being around you and just being himself in a sense.
Most of the time, but like he brought something to my attention, and I went to two people to find out whether what he was saying is it his perception or is it reality, you know?
Mhm.
And discovered it was perception, and he said, "Well, not with that person, they're lying." And so it doesn't matter whether they're really lying or not. If he's perceiving them to be a personality type, I can't have that person being his therapist. He doesn't trust them.
Right.
So it's not I'm not dealing with an ordinary person, you know? And that's the other beauty of sevens is we can see things from every side. We read people really well and we see all sides of a situation. So that's served me really well and I can relate to that really well, you know? And so somebody can come to me with their side of the story and another person can come to me with their side of the story and I'll say, isn't that interesting for both of them? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or I could get sucked into each person's drama. I just have to choose how I'm gonna deal with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
They'll both think I'm on their side when, in reality, I am
You're
both
just being empathetic and you're
right.
listening, and you're
Exactly.
able to do that without bashing the other person, and, they can talk to you in confidence, like you're a closed book. So I've been in situations kind of similar like that in my life where two different people at a job or a situation or friends are venting to me, and I don't bash the person. I don't join in on the bashing or anything, but I just hear them out and listen. And then the other person comes up and they're like venting to me, and I just hear them out and listen. And neither of them know that I know both sides, but I know both sides, and I just kind of sit and let them blow off some steam, give them some advice, try and help them, not argue. And
Yeah, the only problem comes in when both of them think that you're on their side, and they get together and they say, "Wait, wait, she's on my side, not yours." You know,
right,
but in reality, you're not taking sides, you're trying to help two friends, right? So,
right.
uh,
There is no sides. We're all friendships. We're all friends
well,
here.
then you get into the right and wrong way game, and that's a whole nother a whole nother
And
story, right?
then perception is reality, and it all just keeps unfolding.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so then let's get into it. Um, so yeah, so to kind of map out the podcast episode, we went ahead and listed 1 through 5, and this is me talking to whoever would be listening, by the way. So, anyways, first on our list is how aromatherapy interacts with the body and how it works. And this is something I'm definitely interested about because I know there's a lot of different opinions on aromatherapy and a lot of misinformation out there. So, and just for a bit of background for people listening, I have obviously dealt with a lot of anxiety and OCD, and I have definitely looked into essential oils as a way of helping to alleviate those symptoms. Because you get to that point where you just want to try whatever you can. You're willing and open to a lot of different things, especially natural methods, because I didn't want to take a medication. Not that, it never comes to a point where someone should or it's bad if you do. But anyways, I found out, especially with talking to you and other people, that I have no clue what I'm doing. So how does how does aromatherapy work and how does it affect the body?
So I wouldn't say that aromatherapy should be used like when you're talking about anxiety or something like that, or some kind of a serious illness. There's a time for Western medicine and there's a time for alternative medicine. I think when you're in a crisis mode or you've tried everything else and nothing else is working, then you might have to turn to a Western medicine um, philosophy or treatment. But if you're looking to get support, you're stable in whatever it is, like let's say, you know, you just have recurring anxiety here and there, but it's not anything really serious that's preventing you from waking up in the morning or your daily tasks of living, then I think aromatherapy is a nice alternative. How essential oils work. So, your olfactory senses, they're really a great part of your body. We kind of take them for granted. We don't really think about them, right? Unless you smell something that's really, really great and brings back a wonderful memory. Like most people think about chocolate chip cookies baking, right? That
Mm. Yeah.
most of us, that's a good memory, right? But maybe a garbage dump would be a horrible smell. Or one thing I really hate is the smell of a skunk. You know, you pass a roadkill and it's just like, "Oh my god," right? And so
Mhm.
you that's an intrusion on your olfactory sense, and you really recognize them at that point. Um, but they help us, they're really important to helping us with taste, and they help us with our mood, our emotions. And, for people that might lose their sense of smell along the way, I didn't know this, but I discovered this in my exploration of essential oils. They can become very depressed, even suicidal. So
Wow.
that's how important your sense of smell is. The fact is the brain can even if you lose your sense of smell, the brain can still recognize odors. It doesn't that part of it doesn't go away. The only time that it really goes away is if that is, permanently damaged, like there's a sever nerve in the membrane or something is severed in the membrane, then that can be permanent.
Mhm.
And it would interrupt the receptors. So what happens is when you smell an essential oil, that microscopic cellular essence, right? It goes into your nose through your nose, and it picks up these. They're really fine. The essential oils are really finite, and they can break through the blood-brain barrier. But there are receptors in that area in the olfactory center, and those receptors, those molecules, bind to those receptors. And once a molecule binds to that receptor, it initiates an electrical signal that travels from the sensory neurons to the olfactory bulb. And that olfactory bulb is a structure at the base of the forebrain that relays signals to other parts of the brain for additional processing. So it basically will influence then your neurochemistry. And what it does is it sends signals. The basic part of it is it sends signals to the rest of your body or different areas of your body, like your lungs, um, or your circulatory system, and it gives it messages of what to do for the body to heal itself. Right? It's not like masking a problem.
Mhm.
It's literally telling the body what to do to heal it. So that's my answer to how does it work. Um,
Right, so you're saying that it's not the essential oil itself, it's the interaction that the essential oil has with the cells and the, messages it sends to your brain?
Right, right. So it goes to the limbic system, which the limbic system is that system that handles your emotions, right? So, for instance, in your case with anxiety, if you have the right combination or the right essential oil that will send out those receptors to tell your body to calm itself,
Mhm.
or that your body is in fight, freeze, or flight when you have anxiety. So it's going to tell your body that what you're doing you don't need to do.
Right.
It's gonna put your body back into what we call homeostasis. That's perfect
Mm.
balance. I love that word,
My
homeostasis.
therapist uses that word too, yep.
Yeah, you want that balance. You want that balance. When you're in fight, freeze, or flight, you're out of balance. Your cortisol is going off. You don't have enough dopamine, or you have too much dopamine, or all these chemicals are racing around in your brain, and you become unstable.
Mhm.
One essential oil could just control those receptors and calm you down. And it sometimes has immediate effect because when you're doing it through the olfactory sense, or you're putting it maybe at the base of your neck, it's getting into your circulatory system really quick. That's why you want to use a carrier oil with it all the time,
Mhm.
because that carrier oil takes it through your body
And
fast.
you recommend, refractionated coconut oil, right?
Right, you can do fractionated coconut oil, but that's
Mhm.
the go-to. That the reason why people really like that one, any carrier oils are any vegetable-based oil.
Mhm.
So olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, castor oil, sweet almond oil. But fractionated coconut oil is really one of the most popular ones because it's of its consistency. It's light, it's non-greasy, so you don't have to really worry about ruining clothes or feeling oily or, any of those kind of bad residue feelings that you might have with some of the other options. But there are really great benefits to some of those other oils that I mentioned. For instance, castor oil. Um, You're probably too young to remember when castor oil was used medicinally. So,
Yeah, I don't remember that. I
yeah,
don't
so
recall.
when my mom would be 94 if she was still alive. When she was a kid, you were given castor oil internally for to keep you healthy. It was sort of like the apple a day keeps the doctor away, kept your system in balance. But castor oil is really great to use warm packs for arthritis. Add essential oils to that, and you're really heating up the area. You're really getting that area ready to receive the medicinal quality of the essential oil, the healing quality of what the essential oil can do for the body.
Hmm. And so there's different options as long as they're vegetable based. What are some essential oils, or where could someone buy them if they're just getting started and they don't know, they have no oils, they have no collection, no idea of how to use them? What's a good start?
So the important part of essential oils is that you're using something that's really pure. So you can toxify your system if you have things that have additives in them or if they weren't distilled properly. So, essential oils are created by distillation. It's a process. Every type of oil may have a different process or timing that it goes through. A proper distiller will know what that is. And in addition, companies that are selling oils that have efficacy to them, that have high standards to them, get them GCMS tested. That's a test that determines the purity of them, that they were cultivated in the country they're indigenous to, which is really important. So let's just take an orange for you. For example, if you were to grow it in the Midwest, it's not going to be the same as a Florida or California orange. It's not going to have the same properties or the same nutritional value because the soil and the climate is not proper for that particular fruit. So you always want to buy your oil where it's, you know, just developed from where it's cultivated from where it's grown from. Um, Once you've determined that it has a GCMS testing, and that should be on the label. Um, your label should have its botanical name. It should have where it was produced. It should have if it's tested, etc. You're going to pay more for that oil, but and I've done this with people hundreds of times. If you look at an oil that you get that is compromised or that is really inexpensive that you might get at a drugstore or a superstore or online, like from Amazon, versus a high quality oil that you buy from a reputable distiller, there's going to be a big difference in the scent. So you're asking me where? I can tell you where I get my oils. I use doTERRA oils. That's all I use. Um, and well, I shouldn't say it's all I use. I have some from when I was in school with private vendors that I've used, and I only get them by word of mouth from the people in the industry because they know the proper distillers. So, you know, I would say, and I know that all my oils through doTERRA are GCMS and they're created in the indigenous culture.
Mhm. How long do essential oils stay good?
If you keep them in the right climate, they can stay good forever.
What's really? Man, what's the right climate? I need to know. Is it like the fridge or
No,
in
no,
a
no, no. You
dark
want to just
box?
keep it in not too warm, not too cold, like your home is fine, right? Your home, and then most oils come like doTERRA oils come in the little amber bottles, and just keep them in a dark place in a cabinet. I keep mine in a box in a cabinet, and you just want to keep them out of the sunlight because the sunlight or really hot conditions or really cold conditions will um, break them down. And
Kinda
that
like with vitamins, I guess. You don't wanna leave your vitamins in the car and,
right.
that's why they're usually in dark bottles, or that's the sign of a better quality vitamin if they're in a darker amber bottle.
Right, right. So you wanna just make sure that you keep them in a proper climate, and you should be good. They've got a really long shelf life. Oils like myrrh will get a resin buildup, and they'll be a little bit hard to open the bottle after a while if they're sitting too long. I just dip it in warm water and, then
Mhm.
it's fine.
Like nail polish, just run under a hot sink and
Well, you don't wanna dip the bottle in hot water. I just run it
okay,
a
never
little bit
mind.
of warm water because I don't wanna ruin the effectiveness of the oil,
Touche.
but that cap, I'll run it over a little warm water and
Okay.
either that or get a really a pair of vice grips because
Oh gosh.
it does get a thick resin on it, but for the most part, that's the only problem I ever have with essential oils.
Right, and so what are some good basic oils for someone who is dealing with anxiety or, I guess it would be different oils, I assume, for depression versus anxiety? Because
Not
some are uppers and
necessarily,
downers?
not
Okay.
necessarily, like, lavender and bergamot both have, um, the ability to lift you up and calm you down.
Hmm.
So they have both of those features in it, and that's another great benefit of essential oils because not only do you get the benefit you're looking for, but you'll get a whole lot of other benefits from it that you didn't even know. Like lavender is great for skin. It is also an antibacterial. So there's a lot of other benefits that you're getting from that. So, like in today's world, we're having to wear masks all the time. If you like lavender, it's something that I wouldn't hesitate to tell somebody to put in their mask. It's gonna make your mask a little bit more or some frankincense. Frankincense is a really great antiviral and microbial oil. So they have more than one benefit to them. But if you're asking specifically for anxiety, um, I think lavender is one. But if you don't like the smell of lavender, you could do Roman chamomile. Now, some people don't like that smell. But there's also an oil that is quite pricey. We always try to start with the lower priced oils,
Yeah.
but, so like lavender can be about $20, $25 a bottle for 15 milliliters. But when then you're going into Roman chamomile, you're getting that in a 5 milliliter and it's, probably 6 times that amount, you know? Well, maybe not six, maybe about $75. So
Hmm.
3 times the cost. And then
Yeah.
when you go to Melissa oil, then you're going which is another great one for anxiety. It's the one I use if I'm
Hmm.
really having a moment, which I don't they're rare for me, but when I get them,
But you get them.
then I get one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's Melissa's my go-to, but that's like $130 for a 5 milliliter bottle, so it's a lot
Does it
more.
smell good? I mean, I'm guessing you must enjoy
Well,
it.
I don't know that I would say that it's my favorite scent, but it does the trick. So first I usually go with scent. It doesn't make me sick, but is it a scent that I really, really love? Eh, I don't find it offensive,
It's
but
tolerable.
right, but it helps me. Now what you can do is then you can get into blending. So If you don't like the smell of alyssum oil, you can blend it with something that you do like. Like I like wild orange. Wild orange will lift you up, so you could add it to
Smells
that.
great.
Yeah, it smells great, right? Um, so you can do something like that. So I usually tell people if you want to start replacing things in your medicine cabinet, focus on one oil first and focus on the thing that's bothering you the most. So, like in your case, it's anxiety. So you sit with somebody maybe that has oils, like an aromatherapist, like myself, and you test the smells of what you're considering that's within your price range. You pick one out that you like, and in the world that I live in, the products I sell are guaranteed, so you can, you can bet that if you try it and you don't like it, you can get your money back. But if I don't have that option, what I do is I make a small vial up for that person and then test it for a couple days, see if it works. Doesn't work, then we'll try something else. Just like, um, in any kind of pharmaceutical that you may get, you might be prescribed one medication that doesn't work, and they prescribe something different. Essential oils are the same way. There are many oils that do the same thing.
Mhm. And I like how you just brought up, making sure that you at least can tolerate the scent because I know last time we spoke, I mentioned how I bought cedarwood and I swear it smells just like cat piss. And I'm like enduring, I'm having to endure putting this on. I'm putting it on the wrong place. I shouldn't be on my toes, which apparently isn't the best place just to keep it away from my nose at night. And, so I definitely agree that it's good to, go with a company because I buy from Young Living and I have like about 5 now. But it's definitely good to keep that in mind that if you don't like it, or how you mentioned as well,
You could blend it. You
that
could blend it
exactly.
with something else, with something
Yes,
you prefer.
exactly.
But cedar wood is really great to help you to sleep at night when you have racing thoughts. That's a
Mm,
really great oil for that. And a trick that if you don't like putting it, I'm not saying, you and I have had this conversation before, and I'll share with your audience. The bottoms of your feet, in my opinion, are not the worst place, but they're not the best place to put an oil. They say put oils where your pores are large. Well, your pores are large in the bottom of your feet because they're pulling toxins out of your system, not necessarily doing the reverse, putting things into your system. So while there are large pores there, they're not necessarily um,
as
doing,
absorbent as you might think.
absorbing it as you might think. Right. I know people that have had very good results with putting things on the bottom of their feet. I'm just saying it's not the go-to person place that I go to. I would go to my belly button before I would go to the bottom of my feet.
That's right. I forgot about that. The good old belly button.
The good old belly button from where your life source began, right? And so
Oh wow.
there's so many nutrients in that, or nerve endings in that space, and ports in that place that, I mean, that fed you for 9 months, right? So why
Right.
wouldn't it be a great place to put an essential oil? But always, 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 please remember dilution. Please remember to dilute your oils. And if you don't want to be troubled with diluting your oils every time you use them, pick out your favorite ones. Take a roller bottle. They're 10 milliliters. If you do, uh, 12 drops in there of your favorite oil, that's probably, I believe that would be a 2% dilution
Mhm.
of oil, with your carrier oil, and just put it in a roller ball, and label it.
Could
The
people also do like one of those Ember dripper bottles, like with the drop and dilute it that way, and then just put like 2 drops on their wrist and rub them together? Or
Well, you'd have to have the the carrier oil with it already,
right.
right? So
Yeah.
I would rather use a spray bottle for me.
Okay.
A roller bottle, a spray bottle. Um, Sometimes I will save my empty bottles, and then I clean them out. I take the label off and I repurpose them. And then I label it whatever it is. Like for my grandson, I have one that's for teething. I have
Mhm.
one that is for wound care because I burned myself really bad. So, as I need them, I make them, I label them, and that's my medicine cabinet.
Mhm.
And you can do the same thing. But I generally start out with one oil. Start one with one. If you want to get really more serious about it and you want to learn, I would say, talk to an aromatherapist and they can create a blend for you. Um, doTERRA has some great blends. Young Living has some great blends, and they're for very specific things. I know that we have one called Adaptive that is fabulous for anxiety.
Hmm.
And it is so pleasant smelling. It's really, really a great product. So and I find that it works really well. It even works well on tense muscles. When I get anxious or I get stressed, the muscles in my neck tighten up. So what I do is I take that roller ball and I roll it on that tight part of my neck, and within an hour, it's all loosened up. I don't have that tension or that tension headache that I get from it.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's pretty cool. And again, back to what you said about, diluting it. I had mentioned that whenever I first started essential oils for a straight 3 months, I'm pretty sure I was just hardcore, just lavender directly on the wrists, 2 drops sometimes, like dumping it in my bathtub with my Epsom salt, like putting it directly on my temples. I'm like, oh, it burns, but that's okay. It's working.
Well, no, that's not okay. It is a skin sensitivity. Now, let's go back to what you said. So you said you put it in your bath with your Epsom salt.
Mhm.
Epsom salt at that point acts as your carrier. Okay. So, but you want to put the oil in the Epsom salt, not in the bath with the Epsom salt. So you put the oil in the Epsom salt and then you put it into the tub. Now, try not to put more than 7 drops because that's gonna make it you've got, the heat is acting as a adducive agent, so that's gonna penetrate your body and increase the potency of the essential oil, so you don't wanna put a whole lot. An interesting fact with lavender is we're using it to calm, right? But in some people, or if you use too much, it will have the reverse result.
Oh gosh.
So you can actually less with essential oils is sometimes more.
Right.
When you're talking about people that have conditions like heart conditions or cancer or, any kind of serious condition, especially the elderly and babies, also, you want to reduce how much you use with the carrier oil. So with a baby, I'm never going to do more than a 1% dilution. That means 6 drops to every ounce of carrier oil. It could be even less. I could do a teaspoon with 1 drop in it, you know? So you want to be really, really careful how much you use because if anybody tells you that essential oils don't have any side effects, or reactions, they're mistaken.
Right.
There are essential oils that for some people they could have adverse effects. For instance, if somebody has seizures and they use too much rosemary, it could induce a seizure.
Wow.
If somebody is on a blood thinner and they use clove or they use thyme, they could thin their blood even more and bleed out. So you don't want. Now, there are some people out there that would say, "Oh, you need a whole lot of essential oil for that to happen." Well, I don't know how much you're putting on. I see people that just throw essentials on neat. That's when we take them directly out of the bottle and use them, and they love the smell, they think that they're natural, that they're not gonna affect them, and, um, then you hear stories about people breaking out in rashes or hives or having, you know, boils on their skin or what have you because they've used something that they either are having an allergic reaction to and they haven't tested it before, or they keep using it and they think that the more that they use, the better they're going to get. They don't understand why whatever it is they're using it for is getting
Right.
worse, you
They're
know?
getting side effects, and they think they're treating those side
Right.
effects that aren't they think that they're not related to their essential oil, but little do they know they're actually feeding that instead of curing that.
Exactly. So when you're first starting out, the other thing that you wanna do is you select one oil and you test it on yourself first. You do a patch test. So you take a drop, you put it on your skin, like maybe your forearm. I draw a circle around where I put the oil, and then wait to see for 24 hours if anything happened. If there's no rash or no reaction, you're probably really good. You also wanna smell it if you start sneezing. Like, I can't stand geranium oil. Doesn't affect my skin, it doesn't affect me to inhale it. It's got some of the same properties as lavender, but it's just it's a high, what we call a high note, is very, very potent in fragrance, and it's just too strong for me.
Is it very flowery?
Yes, it's got a very heavy floral, deep, even stronger than rose, really deep smell, and some people love it. I happen to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's how my coworker is. She, with the cedarwood, she loves it so much. She's like, "Oh, I put that on every night." I'm like, "Well, good for you," but, smells like straight up cat piss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it's amazing how each of our olfactory senses are different,
Mhm.
you know? Everybody has, just like your taste buds. And actually, your taste buds are influenced more by your olfactory system than they are by your sense of taste.
Wow.
So that's why the way your brain processes that scent of the food of what you're tasting is how you determine whether you like it or not. It's the same with scents.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like when you eat something and it has a weird aftertaste. The food's gone, but, like, the aroma of the food in your mouth is just making you go, "You know what? I don't like this actually. Never mind."
Exactly, exactly. Or it gives you, like you said, that weird aftertaste, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can have an after smell to something too,
Yeah,
you know?
and also I feel like scents smell different on different people. At least, I don't know, my coworker always goes on about this. I'm not sure how much truth there is, but, like, a perfume or an essential oil could smell a certain way on one person, but then because of their pheromones, it could
Right.
smell different on another person.
Absolutely. That's true. That's true. But keep in mind that you can use essential oils as a replacement for perfumes,
Mhm,
but the intent behind them is not that. Now, essential oils are used in perfumes, they're just not cultivated the same way, and they're not as pure.
mhm,
So a lot of that stuff that you get, at the supermarket or what have you, is actually, you know, um, the type of grade that you would use to produce essential oils or flavoring in food or something like that. It's not the type that you would use for alternative methods of treating something.
mhm. And so back to what we said about just getting started and using pure essential oils as opposed to diluted essential oils or oils that who knows what else is mixed in there with them. Just in case there's anyone listening who is still tempted to go down to Ross and pick up a value pack for $4, which I have been there, literally. So basically, if they were to use that in hopes of alleviating anxiety or depression or whatever, it would basically be a like not useful at that point, right? Like it wouldn't really have an effect.
It's actually worse than not useful. It's probably going to either heighten your anxiety or cause some other problem because you're toxifying your system.
Right.
And some people, they worry about, you know, they wanna diffuse all day long, and then you hear these articles or see these articles on Facebook about their animals. "Oh, I heard my cat died because," or, "A
Oh
cat
yeah.
died because of this," or, "My dog got sick because of that." Typically, it's because of overuse. There are some essential oils that you should not use around pets.
Hmm.
You can Google them. I can't tell you all of them off the top of my head, but I can tell you that tea tree is one that you should not use with dogs or cats. But that's mainly on them. Now, if I diffuse something with tea tree in it, like if I diffuse a blend with tea tree in it, um, I'm only keeping it on for 10 or 15 minutes. That's not going to kill my animal.
Right. And I'm guessing you could wear it, obviously, and if they smell it, like them just smelling it while you're petting them isn't gonna
No.
cause them to just fall over.
No, but if I were to put, um, an essential oil like that in front of my dog's nose, she would walk away, and
Right.
she would maybe sneeze or shake her head or show her distaste for it.
Right.
The dog knows, the dog senses. So, I'm not gonna use that on my dog. I'm not gonna also use the oils I shouldn't use, like cinnamon is another, tea tree is one. Cats are different than dogs. There's a different list for them. But like I said, you can Google that list. It's really simple. But it's pretty safe to diffuse. Now, people that diffuse all day long, I don't advocate that. I have a functional neurologist that I have seen over the years, and from a pre-existing concussion that I had, and he's really, as a neurologist, you would realize he's really into the olfactory sense, right?
Mhm.
Um, and your olfactory senses can be overstimulated just like anything else. So diffusing all day long, and I usually say limit it to 3 to 5 drops unless you're diffusing for a big room.
Mhm.
Then, you can use a little bit more, but you don't have to put half a bottle of essential oil in a diffuser.
Right, so you could kind of maybe think of it like sunscreen. I think it's like what, after 70 SPF, it's not really doing anything. It's only helpful up to a certain SPF.
I mean, I would say I wouldn't compare it to that. I would just say that then you're overdoing it. It's like you're over medicating. It's like you're
Okay.
overdoing it. You're
Gotcha,
overloading your system,
gotcha.
and it's going to have adverse effects on it. So, like I said before, less can be more. So it's always better to start out with less. If you're not seeing a result with that, then add a little bit more. But if you're seeing something that you never had before pop up, then you might want to reconsider that essential oil.
Right. So like you said, if you're using it topically just as is, not diluted at all the time, over a period of time, you could even develop an allergic reaction or a
Well, and
rash
you might
or
even have an adaptive. I love the smell of it, but if I diffuse it after 5 minutes, I get a tickle in my throat. So
hmm,
I know that there's an oil in there that I am not that my body doesn't like, you know?
hmm,
So, but I can use the roller ball just fine. So, you have to listen to your body. And it's very helpful when you're first starting out to work with somebody that really knows what they're talking about. Not everybody that's out there selling essential oils knows what they're talking about.
right. Well, one thing I definitely appreciate about you and the way you view your practice is it seems like you're very good at like being objective and because sometimes you want to believe something or you want to be on board with something, you kind of turn a blind eye to potential negative aspects of it. But like you're saying, I think it's important when someone's interested in trying something new, especially something that involves their body, that they are able to look at the pros and the cons or to at least be aware of potential issues that could pop up while they're because there's tons of people like me. Like I said, when I started, I was just like just putting it on, not diluted directly to my skin every day. I mean, good night. It's almost embarrassing. Like there, sometimes the cedar wood would accidentally drip 3 drops on my big toe, and I'd be like, "Well,
Uh-oh.
whatever," and
Yeah,
just
right.
go to bed.
Well, here, I'll tell you what, when I first started, I was all excited about it, and I loved them, and I just thought I was using them neat. I didn't know.
Mhm,
And I went to my chiropractor one time and I was telling him I'm really getting into this essential oils and aromatherapy. And he's like, oh my goodness, be so careful. There are so
mhm,
many, I see all these ladies just lathering it on like it's aftershave. And he's like, you're not supposed to use them that way. That's not what they're for. And I walked out of there and I remember thinking, oh, he's full of beans. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then but I'm like, well, maybe he does. Maybe I'm going to research that. And so then I started to look into it and I met up with, some of the people I currently work with now, which one of the ladies is a biologist and one of the other ladies is a psychologist. And I just thought, I started talking with them and I'm like, okay, never use them neat, and be careful how much you use. I'm not saying that the ordinary healthy person should be okay.
right,
I'm not trying to scare people. These are not nearly as toxic as many of the pharmaceuticals we use today. But don't believe that they don't have side effects. That's all I'm saying.
right. Yeah, and like you said, just find what works for you. you know?
Right, listen to your body, and if you're not sure, find a reliable resource that you can tap into to ask a question to or to find out the answer. It may even be the place where you got the essential oil from.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know actually, it's probably not the best idea. One thing that popped up in my head was, different Facebook groups, but I bet there's probably a lot of stuff on those Facebook groups where people are talking about their essential oils and how they use them that's not correct. Have you found that at all, or have
For
you
sure, it's just like anything else. I mean, there are people that think that everything that on Fa that's it must be true, it's on Facebook.
the internet said so.
It's
So,
yeah, right, the internet said so, but it's not. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and also you have to decide for yourself what you're gonna do. So, let's talk a little bit about ingestion, shall we?
please.
So, ingestion. As an aromatherapy practitioner, um, and I use that term less loosely, practitioner. I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not while I got my certification in a clinical uh, setting, I consider myself a holistic certified aromatherapist. I'm not working in the clinical field per se. Um, but I French aromatherapy uses ingestion and they see nothing wrong with it. They do it in a medical setting. So in France, it's prescribed by a doctor. doTERRA, Young Living, they all prescribe ingestion. They all prescribe to that philosophy, I should say, right? I think ingestion is a personal choice. Areas that I would tell people to avoid ingestion are if you have any um, compromising conditions. I have a client that has a liver issue, somebody with a heart issue. I would, I would steer away from ingestion if I were them. I don't recommend it to people. In my practice, I'm not it's one with your certification, it's frowned upon to do that, but I do find it to be a personal choice. There are certain things that I do ingest, but for a medicinal purpose only, not on an everyday
Mm,
level. Now, there are some people that do that, like my biologist friend, she does ingest every day. But you have to know, if there are any contraindications of what you're taking or interactions with any medicines you're taking. So you know, I just caution people. That's all. There are two schools of thought about it. Some feel it's harmless. Some people think you should never do it.
mm.
And
Yeah. I don't know much about the essential oil community, but it does seem to be very highly debated. And it's
it
like there's
is. It
team
is.
don't ingest and then there's team do ingest, and they each kind of not frown upon each other, but definitely I feel like some people feel like it's really risky to ingest. Have you seen that Netflix show? It's called Unwell with that couple in the beginning who
Yes, I I have, yeah, and I mean, yeah, and there are some essential oils that you can cook with, oregano,
Mhm.
rosemary. People are putting them in their food. Put a drop of lemon in your water. Put a drop of lavender. I've seen doctors prescribe that to
Hmm,
calm somebody down. A drop of lavender in their water. I just would
hmm.
say that if you're going to do that, just bring it to your doctor and ask if they feel that with whatever you're dealing with, it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I also have a friend, Noelle Fuller, and she studies herbs and cultivates them for the University of Georgia. And she's really big into distilling. I
Yeah.
think that's what it's called.
Mhm.
And she was saying if you're going to take it orally, she recommends like say you add it to your water, you should make sure you mix it well so it's not just a big clump of basil or something at the oil at the top of it to where it's
Right.
like hits you super hard. Which, by the way, not to interrupt you, my bad, but my aunt and my uncle are very like mountain people, holistic. Do if doomsday comes, we're gonna make it. But I remember one time I was sick and they were visiting from New York and they had me drink basil oil in my water Whoo! All I remember is everyone crowding around me, just watching me try to down this burning basil oil, and they're like, "It's for your immune system." And all I can remember is just, I don't think I mixed that very well. That's all I'm getting at here. I don't think I mixed that very well because it was all kind of at the top of it, just hanging out.
Well, and some people say, oregano is a really good oil for colds.
Maybe that's what it was.
So some people would say put a couple of drops of oregano oil in a veggie cap and take that if you feel a cold coming on, and take it every couple hours. And you get that in the vitamin store, right? And anything that I can get with a food grade, um, well, a good cultivated GCMS essential oil would probably be okay in that setting.
Mhm.
In in my For me, I would do it, but I'm not going to tell you
Of
to
course.
do it, right? But I'm not going to put that in water because oregano is a hot oil and it
Yeah.
will burn the esophagus.
It freaking burned, man. It freaking burned.
It burns. You don't put it on your skin, you don't swallow it without it being in a protective coating, no, no. And so this is it.
Oh,
This is why there is such the debate about ingestion, because some people, again, have that philosophy is more is better, and essential oils aren't regulated by the FDA like medicine is, right?
right.
And so what's gonna stop somebody from drinking a whole bottle of something?
Oh gosh.
You would think logically, well, that wouldn't be too smart, but there are people that do, and then you could create a toxic environment and poison yourself.
Oh Lord. Jeez goodness. And I hate to pull this card, but I feel like sometimes too, just as Americans, that's our mentality, like more is better, like
Yeah,
bigger is
right,
better, like
right,
just dump it all on, you know.
right.
But also to backtrack, you said veggie capsule. Is that like kind of like the those little capsules for vitamins, but you can
Yeah,
buy them empty and then
yeah,
just
exactly,
oh, where
exactly.
do you buy those?
Well, doTERRA sells them, but, you can get them at, like, I don't know if you have Fruitful Yield out by you, but any health food store, you could get a good organic, veggie cap.
That's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why that excites me so much, but it does.
But I just feel like, with my carrier, and I would add a carrier oil to whatever you put in that veggie cap too, because then that
Right.
will dilute it some and it will, help you digest it a little bit better if you choose to
Mhm,
do that. Um, I just feel like the quality of your carrier oil should just be just as good as the quality of your essential oils. So I typically only buy organic, pesticide-free carrier oils.
mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you've already gone that far in investing in a good quality oil, then you're consuming it or you're placing it on your body, and your body's absorbing it. You might as well. Um, yeah, I'm so glad though that you've been able to come on. I've really enjoyed learning more about essential oils and kind of filling in a lot of the blanks for myself. And hopefully, someone will listen to this and they'll feel a little bit more educated on essential oils after
Yeah, or
they
just have
walk
a
away.
different perspective,
Yeah.
and have some caution, when using them, learning something, especially if you're using them on babes or elderly people. It scares me when I see what people put on, little kids. Their little bodies can't handle that much. So, just it doesn't take a whole lot with them. If I put a little tiny bit of lavender oil on the base of my grandson's neck that's been really highly diluted, he'll fall asleep.
Hmm.
He'll just fall asleep. So it's all good. I just wanted to wrap up. You asked me to give you some examples of essential oils in the Bible.
Yeah. Totally.
So, yeah, so I pulled some. Josh Axe is really into essential oils. He's a doctor. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. So I got some of this from him because I was too lazy to look it up. But well, of course, we know our Christmas story, right? Frankincense and myrrh, and those are the two golden oils I think in essential oil community that they really, while they're very expensive oils, when in doubt, frank it out. You can use frankincense for just about anything.
Wow.
It's a very powerful cellular booster, and I just love frankincense. It's not everybody loves the smell of it, but that's one oil I would say Don't get hung up on the smell. Blend it with something else and get over it because it really is, a
Beneficial.
really beneficial oil. And if it was good enough for baby Jesus, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, right?
So, cinnamon oil, we haven't talked about that one. Not only does it smell great, but it's a really great antibacterial, and it was used a lot in an anointing, but a lot for wound care and things like that back in those days. Ironically enough, you mentioned cedar wood. It was thought to bring wisdom. It was used for ritual cleansing and served as a medicine for treating skin conditions and for lepers. Remember those lepers in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Um, Sandalwood. You hear a lot about sandalwood in the Bible. Um, they use sandalwood along with myrrh to bury Jesus. And so they would, wrap the body and bathe it in anoint in holy oils and essential oils. Um, this is the thing I got from Josh X. It's in today's market, the amount of oil used would be worth an estimated $200,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I wonder if it acts as a preservative too. It's great for the skin. um, you know, lavender. We talked a lot about lavender today. And there's another oil that we haven't talked about. It's called spikenard. Now, lavender and spikenard are interchangeable terms in the Bible. And this one I found was interesting. Mary dipped her cloth in lavender to clean Jesus' brow on the cross. So,
Wow.
um, I've read somewhere in the past that it was the value of it was about a year's salary in today's market for one small vial of it. Expensive now,
Yeah, I know, right?
right?
We got it made.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and then there was that woman too, right, who, cleaned Jesus' feet with her hair and essential oils, right? And
Was that Mary Magdalene, I believe?
yes, you know what's funny? I know the stories, but I can never remember the names. I need to work on that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that, there's evidence that, we don't have a whole lot of clinical studies. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but not enough to have people definitively say it does this, 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 and this. Scientists are scientists. They want more evidence, right? Before they're going to, but there's a big shift happening. I see a lot more promotion and use. We're starting to introduce it to hospice companies. I'm actually meeting with a caregiver company after this. Um, we see it in clinical settings. I don't know how Young Living is, but doTERRA is working with doctors around the country and around the world to use this like French medica. We've been doing it for centuries. Florence Nightingale used it. The effects of aromatherapy on what we now know as PTSD in soldiers to calm them, and calming helps the healing process. So there's a whole lot of evidence to the value of them. That's pretty much wraps up my biblical end of it. Do you have any other questions in closing?
Oh man. Well, before I close, I will add that, like you said, about how doctors and scientists are more open to understanding and studying the effects of essential oils, and how some people say, "Oh, well, there's no research backing this. I only go by research." But back to my friend Noelle Fuller, who studies this and how to grow them and all that, and uses them on the regular. She made a good point to me one time, and she said, she's working on her PhD right now, and she has a lot of background in research. But at the same token, she says, so she tries to be objective. She used to be like, oh, science, science, science. Where's the science on this? But then she said, at what point, though, do you also recognize and take into consideration, A, the lack of research, and then B, the thousands and thousands of years that certain communities have been using these oils and have been seeing benefits of them? You know what I mean? Like, you have to see it
Right.
from like further back. You have to take a step back and take all of it in. Plus, she said, with a lot of the research that happens with essential oils, it's not being studied. In those studies, the oil is not being used the way that you would use it in real life as well. She made
Well,
that as a
here's the
point.
other thing. The reason why there aren't, and this is political, so I might rub people wrong in saying this. The reason that there's not a whole lot of um, research around them is because pharmaceutical companies don't wanna back essential oils because you can't patent them. I
Mhm.
can't patent something that's grown in nature. And every time you cultivate an essential oil or you still it, it has a small hint of um, um, it changes its properties just a slight bit so that you can't measure it finitely like you can with pharmaceutical. And that's the argument in the medical field is that you can't measure it the same way that they're used to measuring pharmaceuticals. And so therefore, how do you say that this formula this works better than, A works better than B? So, from a scientific point of view, I can see that. But the beauty of that is that because it morphs itself just a tiny bit, when you're talking about things like viruses and bacteria, and we've got superbugs now, they don't recognize the patterns in the essential oils like they do in the pharmaceutical. So you can't build up a resistance. That bug can't morph itself to be resistant to that essential oil.
Holy crap. That explains why we're still using them thousands of years later.
Right. Well, and it explains why nature is better.
Yeah, yeah.
So for that reason, because they can't be patented and they can't make money off of them, they're not gonna a lot of the medical, studies that you see, those are backed by pharmaceutical companies or big conglomerates that have a stake in the game, a reason to want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. There's I feel like so many different things that go into why there isn't research behind essential oils and CBD, and other things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But you know what's gonna change that is people using them and switching to the other side, and so, by doing alternative things and it's a supply and demand, if people are demanding it, then they're gonna have to start listening at some point because it's us that's gonna drive the market. It's the individual, each individual and the choices that they make, even around all sorts of aromatherapy, alternative therapy. I mean, you could even talk about the quality of the way our food is grown and the pesticides and everything, which are whole other topics that I'm sure
right.
over the months you're going to be covering. So, you know, um, it's all interesting stuff, and I can't wait to see how we evolve from here.
Yes, and maybe one day people, how we try and encourage people to have backyard gardens. Maybe one day we can even encourage people to add to those backyard gardens an herb selection, and they can distill their own herbs, maybe, and like, I mean, to help with the environmental production of essential oils. So who knows? There's all sorts of possibilities.
We're gonna revert back to our older wives' tale type of treatments, mustard packs and castor oil packs and things like that. Like maybe your aunt and uncle who um, are going to survive Armageddon,
Off their worm farm.
right? Because they have all of those, skill sets. There's something to be said. Everything that goes in cycles, and things like natural things are coming back around. So
And I'm super happy to see that too. But I know we're out of time, and I really appreciate you coming on. It was a joy talking. But anyways, thank you for coming on, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening. Oh, do you have any plugs, like any websites people could check out to reach you? Any?
sure. I don't have I go as the Life Alchemist, but I don't have that site up yet. So you can reach me at Life with Dignity, which is my other hat. We do case management, advocacy, and guardianship. So I've been using, essential oil therapy with some of our clients that have dementia or other issues that we're trying to help them with, Parkinson's disease, etc. So it's lifewithdignity.net. We have a Facebook page and we have a LinkedIn page, um, or my personal LinkedIn page, Fran Piekarski.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
And do you care if I put your contact info in the description of the podcast and
Absolutely
stuff?
not. Absolutely not. Go right ahead. And you can use our work number, which is 630-549-0654.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I wish you all the best.
Well, hot dang, that's the end of the first episode. If you listen this far, that's pretty sweet. Thank you. And I hope you got something out of this. I definitely learned from this episode myself. And I am officially on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and the YouTube page is up. So if you haven't, you should totally follow one of those. That way you can keep up with all the future episodes that we have coming up. And you may or may not have noticed the audio quality wasn't too on point on my end for this episode, but in the time of me recording this outro, I have definitely fixed, or I should say resolved, that issue since then. But anyways, okay, email me if you have a topic you want to hear. I'll do my best to kind of make that happen. I want to interact with anyone out there who is listening, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Or if this is one of those late night 2 a.m. podcast sessions, cool. I hope you have a good night. Pull that blanket up, get cozy, and go to bed. Good night. Or day.